Hello and welcome to today's Industry Week webcast. Culture of Problem Solvers delivers a 3,000% return on investment, sponsored by Kepner-Tregoe. My name is Steve Minner. I'm the Executive Editor with Industry Week. Before we begin, let me explain how you can participate in today's presentation. First, if at any time you're having audio difficulties or slides are not advancing, simply hit your F5 key to refresh your webcast console. If you have any technical difficulties during today's session, please press the Help button on your player console to receive assistance in solving common issues. This webinar technology allows you to resize the presentation by clicking the Maximize icon or by dragging the lower right corner to enlarge the window. We welcome your questions during today's event. In order to submit your questions to today's presenters, simply type your question into the question window on the left-hand side of your screen and then hit the Submit button. We'll be answering as many questions as possible during the Q&A session that will follow the main presentation. But please feel free to send in your questions at any time and we'll add them to the queue. Please also be aware that today's session is being recorded and will be available on the Industry Week website within the next week for you to review. You'll be notified by email when the archive is available. On your console, the Kepner-Tregoe logo is hot linked. So if you want to visit their website during this webcast, you can click on the logo and a new window will open. This will not take you out of the webinar. I would now like to introduce our presenters. Joel Beezhold is the Vice President of Global Operations for Yangfeng Automotive Interiors. Joel has been with Yangfeng for 22 years. Yangfeng Automotive Interiors is the world's leading supplier of instrument panels and cockpit systems, door panels, floor consoles, and overhead consoles. Headquartered in Shanghai, the company has more than 100 manufacturing and technical centers in 17 countries and employs over 29,000 people globally. Samuel M. Bernstine directs the Kepner-Tregoe Automotive segment of the Operational Excellence practice in North America and serves as liaison to KT's global automotive practice. For over 26 years, Sam has brought his belief in teamwork, his persistent pursuit of value, and his strong leadership skills to serving KT clients in the automotive, manufacturing, and power generation energy industries. Sam's proven ability to collaborate effectively with employees at all levels, from the C-suite to the production floor, enables clients to fulfill quality, productivity, and cost savings goals both at the major automotive OEMs and their tiered suppliers. Sam is a vital resource who consistently achieves rapid results for clients while embedding the analytic and business processes needed for continuous improvement. And with that, I welcome Sam to the mic. Sam?
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to welcome everyone to the webinar today. Sam Bernstine here, and we're talking about creating a culture where everyone wins. And given my relationship with Joel Beezhold at Yangfeng, we'll be talking about why triple certification at Yangfeng is such a critical element to their success. Obviously, you see the picture of Joel and myself. We look forward to spending the next 45 to 50 minutes with you. Very quickly, we'll be providing a brief introduction and then turn things over to Joel. He'll be talking about Yangfeng, and we'll talk specifically about, in their problem-solving culture, what was not working as effectively as they would have liked, how they dealt with that, and then the approach they worked collaboratively with Kepner-Tregoe on as our role as leaders in problem-solving. Joel will then talk about some case studies, some tangible results, and we're very anxious to get some good questions from the participants. When you talk about business at Kepner-Tregoe, our core focus has always been and will always be to improve our clients' business in the area of operational performance, and that's as leaders in problem solving. We really focus on productivity improvements, quality enhancements, and cost reductions. From a Kepner-Tregoe perspective, we are indeed the pioneers of critical thinking. We've been in the business celebrating 60 years working with clients, and we'll be celebrating that 60-year anniversary in 2018. We've literally worked with millions and millions of clients globally throughout the world, and in that endeavored effort, we are focusing on capability and transfer of our tools. We've worked, as you can see, with well over 40+% of Fortune 100 companies. We work with numerous clients and companies globally throughout the Fortune 500, and we work with small, medium, and large-sized companies. Now, in our effort as leaders in problem solving, the key for us is not teaching people just how to solve problems, make decisions, and implement plans, but rather we are committed to sustainable results for the long term. So you can see on the far right of this screen, we've shared a few examples of significant return on investment with multi-industries that Kepner-Tregoe has worked with for over the past 60 years. And hopefully one of the reasons you've tuned in to this webinar this afternoon is to hear Joel talk more specifically about the 3,000% return on investment that Yangfeng has enjoyed with Kepner-Tregoe. I'd like to get your participation and involvement a little bit, so we have a poll here, and here's the question, and you can see the responses are on the far left. We want to find out what's really the primary reason for you attending this webinar this afternoon. And if you look on the far left, you can simply click the response that you prefer. The first one being because I want to learn more about KT in general. Then I want to know how KT can support the other continuous improvement tools. Or I want to have more clarity on the continuous improvement tools such as Lean, Six Sigma, and KT and how they best complement each other. The fourth response, I want to see how Yangfeng is using KT, and you could have another response. So please pick only one of those and then hit the submit button to the right now. And we'll wait just a few seconds for those to calculate, and then we'll show you with the people that are involved in the event today how those percentages shake out. Okay, so you can get a sense, if you look very quickly, the highest percentages, I want to have more clarity on the continuous improvement tools such as Lean, Six Sigma, and KT, and how they can complement each other. Joel's an expert at that, and we've worked collaboratively with Yangfeng over the years to make that happen. And then secondly, you want to see how Yangfeng is using KT. So with those two responses, I'm going to turn things over to Joel and let him provide you with that information. We look forward to your Q&A at the end of the session. Joel?
Thank you, Sam. Welcome, everybody. This is Joel Beezhold. I am at Yangfeng, and you heard a good introduction on our company. The only thing I would add is that Yangfeng is a joint venture between Huayu Automotive Systems, known as HASCO, and our other partner, which is Adient, and that's the global leader in automotive interior seating. And so with that, we do have approximately 33,000 employees now, and I would like to try to answer all the questions that you came up with in the poll. And so with that, I think everyone probably on the phone has a interiors manufacturing system or some type of production system. For us, we have a YF interiors manufacturing system. It is very similar in concept initially as the Toyota production system. Matter of fact, Toyota, we utilize their Toyota Supplier Support Center, and they even helped us develop the initial principles, and we've carried that now into a maturity model. I think most people on the phone probably have a manufacturing system that is driving operational excellence, that's driving excellence in manufacturing, and of course it does include problem solving. And today I'm going to talk a lot about problem solving as well as critical thinking. And so you may have some questions along that line. We also use Six Sigma. For us, Six Sigma, it's the DMAIC, define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Once you recognize a problem, we have used Six Sigma for many years in the past. We have a leadership academy that we teach Six Sigma. We have Master Black Belts. We have Lean Six Sigma Black Belts as well as Green Belts. And we train our workforce in various levels of the discipline to be successful. And we wanted to integrate these two tools, the Six Sigma and the Lean tools, without really having tool wars. And we realized that certain things were not working well. And as we look at what's not working well, it was important for us to, understand, and we found that a couple issues clearly surfaced. And the first was we found that we were not providing enough education to our people in the foundational critical thinking skills. I think we assumed they had these when we trained them, but really we found out that they didn't. And a lot of times I like to ask our employees and my colleagues, what training, professional training have you had that teaches you to think critically and to think as problem solvers? And the majority of these people that I've talked to and my colleagues said they really never had formal critical thinking training. And so that was important to us. Another issue that surfaced was that we were not harnessing the full potential of our problem-solving abilities. We had CI professionals, but our non-CI professionals, we had offered some training, but they hadn't taken that training into really a record of results. And it was, in some cases, not linked to our continuous improvement mission. So we wanted to make sure we were not only training, but harnessing the results. And then the third one that we found out with our Lean tools and our Six Sigma tools, that we could get more efficiency out of those tools, and it appeared that we were missing some critical thinking tools, some problem-solving tools. And my little icon here is along the lines of the old adage, if your only tool is a hammer, then of course everything looks like a nail to you. And so we weren't sure we had all the tools represented. And that initially got us into thinking, what tools are we missing? And what questions, from a critical standpoint, do we need to ask for what we are facing? And so with that, on this slide, you'll see we have a thinking pattern. And we bucket it into four major thinking patterns. The first is assessing and clarifying. And with that, we're asking, what is really going on? And that was very important to us as we prioritize and clarify and apply the right tool. We had to ask ourselves, what is really going on here? Then the next one, which we're all familiar with, is relating cause and effect. And really the question is, why did that happen? An example, I'm supposed to cut something 16 inches long. They're all pretty close to 16 inches, and all of a sudden one's 18 inches. Why did that happen? Why did we get one that was 18 inches? In our business, we're supposed to put, multiple clips on a door panel. We put multiple clips on. Our customer calls up and says, we're missing a clip. And we're asking, how does that happen? Why did that happen? So we're trying to get to the cause because we clearly understand the effect. The customer is not happy. And then the next thinking pattern is around making choices, making very good choices, which is best for us. And then the last one is, my favorite actually, is the question, what lies ahead? Especially around this time of year as you get into planning for the new year, you're anticipating the future. You're wondering what could happen positively, and of course what could happen negatively. And we're asking, how can I make the good happen, and how can I avoid the bad from happening? And with those questions in that thinking pattern, we turn to Kepner-Tregoe, and they provide the thinking processes, these rational processes, and you can see them there, the situation appraisal, the problem analysis, the decision analysis, and the potential problem or the potential opportunity analysis. And for us, that was key as we taught our people and became educated on the thinking processes. And so with that, these were the basic questions that people should ask every day. And we invited Kepner-Tregoe into our company to train us. and they introduced us to their 5 KT rational processes. I think a lot of people know on the phone that they do have a book, a well-known book published by Kepner-Tregoe and Chuck Kepner. It's The New Rational Manager. I even have the original Rational Manager. Sometimes we call it the Rat Man. Unfortunately, it's not an autographed copy, but I still have the Rational Manager. And it's a very good book because it does teach you to be rational, but many times it was somewhat difficult for me to explain what rational was. I can clearly explain what irrational is. And as we got into the training, we came up with some examples around these rational processes. And I want to give you an example, just starting off with my daughter. She wanted to choose a college, and she had narrowed the decision down to 5 colleges. And she was interested in these 5, but it was difficult for her to choose which one was the best for her. She had scholarships from some, different recognition from another, close to your home, far from the home, different number of friends at each one, different costs, etc. And so she asked me for advice, which as a father, that's kind of cool and important. And so I talked to my daughter, and I said, what would you like to do? I said, we could take those 5 colleges and put their 5 logos on a wall, and you could throw a dart at them, and whichever one you hit, that would be the one you went to. And immediately she said, that would be irrational. And then I referred to, well, let's talk about a rational process. And we went through the decision analysis that Kepner-Tregoe provides and that critical thinking, and we asked about what objectives she wants. We looked at her alternatives. We ranked them. We weighted them. And it was interesting, when she came home from Christmas after picking the college that the decision analysis led to, she said that was the best decision she had ever made. So for me, that was just substantial proof that the decision analysis works, and I think most people would like to have a rational process for not only making decisions, but looking at problem analysis and looking at the potential opportunity or potential problem analysis. And that's what we teach at Kepner-Tregoe with their Kepner-Tregoe processes, and that's what we teach at Yangfeng. And we're very happy on how we use that. I think I want to take one more minute here. When you think about rational processes, you think about people like Ben and Chuck looked at people who were the best decision makers, who were the best problem-solving people. And I look for those people today, and I wanted to give you an example, which a lot of times we talk about problem-solving rapidly, but you still want to have a process, you still want to have a template. And I think all of you on the phone remember Captain Sullenberger. Captain Sully, he was the one that landed the plane on the Hudson River. If you listen closely to his interview on TV after everyone was safe and it was over, he said, and I quote, "First, I forced calm on myself." And to me, that spoke about how he was thinking clearly and rationally. And it's like, with 2 engines out, you're forcing calm on yourself because you have to. And so it was very impressive that he said that. And then he said, secondly, I had to impose order on a situation that may have been confusing and overwhelming or even chaotic. And this, to me, he was saying that I needed to follow the process. Even though I wasn't particularly trained for landing on water, I knew in critical situations I had to think clearly, I had to follow a process, and of course, we all know the outcome. He landed successfully. And I want to add one more thing to give you a visual, and I want you to think about a process of going on an island and exploring an island. So in your mind, think of just a round island, whether you draw it or picture it in your mind, and you have an hour to explore that island with a group of people. There's many ways to probably explore that island, But if you took that island, that circle, and you had an hour to explore it, you could just send the people off, or with a simple template, a simple framework, draw an X through that circle, very large, and all of a sudden you divided it up into 4 quadrants. And those 4 quadrants represent 15 minutes each. And as you explore the island, you explore each quadrant, and then you come back, you have specific times, you have specific findings, and you've organized yourself in such a way that you explored the island very rationally and very, very good. And when you think about it, it's like problem analysis or decision analysis. Kepner-Tregoe provides these templates. They provide the framework to help people solve problems. I think most of you know the problem analysis is generally around an is not type of questioning. And you ask questions about the what and the where and the when and to what extent, and around the is. It is this, it's not that. And I think a lot of people miss those is not questions, and by following the rational processes, we are very successful here, and we're very happy to use the Kepner-Tregoe training, to link it with our Lean and to link it with our Six Sigma. And for us, the training was going to be a secret weapon of ours, and it was going to clearly be a differentiator. Matter of fact, we took this so far that we were not just going to train people to be better and help them to be better. We were physically going to train them, hold them accountable, and actually make them better. And we feel we've done that quite well. The next, I want to explain a little bit of our triple certification and what really that is. So if you look at this slide, of course, the KT continuous improvement, that first bullet there on the left, that is around how you prioritize a project, how you select a project. In most cases, we generally leave that up to the manager. And so you'll be positioned with a problem or a decision that you need to make. And then what tool do you use? Well, if you see there the Lean tool, obviously right away, Lean is about removing waste. And in many cases, waste is very easy to see. You can see people standing around, you can see unnecessary motion, but that's a removal of waste. Six Sigma is a removal of common cause, removing the variation. And I think a lot of folks know that they use like a function of X, and you have all these X's that line up with that's causing the variation. I'll give you a brief example. Pretend I gave you, 100 2x4s that are 8 feet long, and I want those cut 16 inches long. I'll give you the saw, I'll give you the pencil, I'll give you the tape measure, I'll give you the sawhorse, and I want those cut at 16 inches. Well, if at the end of, the day I come back and let's say I collect those, 1,000 16-inch 2x4s, I think we all know that there's going to be variation in the length, depending on how well I measure them. Well, let's say I had a very good measurement tool, some type of laser, etc., and I stack them all on top of each other. You would all of a sudden start to see that these 2x4s stacked on top of each other in terms of dimension would probably range between 15 and 7/8 and maybe 16 and 1/8 inches long, with hopefully 16 in the middle, the mean and the median, around the actual 16 inches that I want. But I think we all know that there's variation. Well, what caused that variation? What common causes do you have? And you may find out that, people are tired, the pencil was dull, the saw got dull, I cut crooked, I cut on the one side of the line, the other side of the line. And all those are X's that add up to why it's not exactly 16 inches. That is where we could use Six Sigma, and in our processes we do use Six Sigma. However, when you get into, you look at one of the 2x4s and it's 18 inches long, it's like, what happened to that one? How did this one get 18 inches long? And you may guess, well, maybe the tape measure was too long, or maybe a person measured incorrectly, or Maybe he thought the 8 was a 6. And that's a special cause. Why was that one out of the 1,000? Why was that one 18 inches long? And Kepner-Tregoe helps us remove the special cause. Matter of fact, Kepner-Tregoe not only in the problem analysis helps us remove special cause, but when you think about decision analysis, did I make the right decision or not? Did I choose the right college or not? Did I select the right software or not? Using a decision analysis helps you remove the doubt. You're more confident that you did select the right decision. Or when you think of the other process on the potential problem analysis, it helps you remove the risk. We know that this is the right solution and it's the least risky. And that's how we integrated the critical thinking skills into our toolbox, and that became our triple certification. Certified in Six Sigma, so we do have black belts and master black belts. Certified in Lean, we do have Lean practitioners, and certified in KT, and we do have KT practitioners. And those became our CI professionals, and then we found out that we really needed to train additionally our, not just our CI professionals, but our non-CI professionals in the critical thinking skills. We thought they had it, but they didn't. And so we took it upon ourselves to train it. I think a lot of you know that the 8D problem-solving methodology goes from, the awareness all the way up to congratulating the team. A lot of times we use the Apollo 13. I take liberties here with the Apollo 13 story. Houston, we've had a problem, and now you're aware of the problem, and when you get to the end, you see President Nixon congratulating and standing with our 3 astronauts that have made it back safely. Where in the process, in D4, you find root cause. And Kepner-Tregoe problem analysis helps us find the true root cause. But it also helps us find not only the root cause, but it helps us state and specify. And that's that framework I talked about. Problem analysis has a framework. How do you address the issues that we had? Matter of fact, NASA credits the Kepner-Tregoe training that they had for bringing those astronauts safely back. And I like to just think about that. Here they are taking off, on April 11, Apollo 13. They're 205,000 miles away, traveling, roughly 24,000 miles an hour, and all of a sudden they have a problem. And I think even on the movie, and a lot of people have seen the movie or read stories about Apollo 13, you hear things about we should turn them around, we should fire the rockets and bring them back right now. And then the other half is, no, we have to send them around the moon, slingshot them around the moon. And it's like, which one are you going to pick? And you got 3 lives up there at risk. Or, you can't think irrationally, like, well, try this, pull that lever, or do that. No, you have to think rationally, but you have to think quickly. And NASA credits that fast problem solving, that fast decision making, but still, and I'm going to go back to Sully, Captain Sully, I had to force calm on myself. I had to think rationally. And it's just very interesting that a lot of real life instances go back to that type of problem solving, that type of critical thinking skill. With that, I want to open up to a poll here. And just real quickly, I hope this helps you visualize our triple certification. Please click on yes or no if it does, or sort of. But for Yangfeng, we have triple certification for our CI professionals in the 3 that I talked about, Lean, Six Sigma, and KT. Click on submit, and I'll wait here a second. Shouldn't take you too long. And it looks like most of you agree that that's our triple certification. And of course, if there's any more questions, we can help with that. As we move on, we have communicated Kepner-Tregoe training, the critical thinking training, throughout our company, not just for engineers, but for everyone from our executives down to our shop floor folks, and its importance to our company. We've put up table toppers, we've advertised, We even had a website. We're revamping it now, but as you can see on our little website here, people could visualize the Apollo 13, because many times I'll hear, even in class, people will say, well, I don't have time to follow the process, or I don't have time to do it. It's like, well, NASA did. They, Captain Sullenberger did. And, everyone does follow a critical thinking process. And the better you're trained and the more you're trained, the better you perform and the better decisions you make as well. And so we have that. Our current offerings, some of you may wonder who we offer this to. We offer KT all the way awareness to our direct labor operators. We generally focus in the KT trainee area, where the yellow range, to our engineers and our manufacturing team, administration team. And then what we require is that they become certified. And this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about our ROI. But we want people to become certified in KT. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And then, of course, we do have at the top, we have the people that can train Kepner-Tregoe in our company, and those people are certified from Kepner-Tregoe themselves. So Kepner-Tregoe does certify our program leaders. What I wanted to talk about just briefly, it's like, how do we come up with the great rate of return? In the past, we have many times trained a lot of people and kept track of how many people we have trained. However, what we found out was that were we getting a return, or were we getting projects closed using the methodology? And what we found was that we had to come up with a way to get across the line. We had to take the training into execution. You had to use the training. And so we trained people, and we required them in Kepner-Tregoe, as well as our Lean and Six Sigma, to actually do projects. And specifically on KT, we required one problem analysis, and we required one of the other disciplines. And they could choose any project they'd like. So if you had to go on vacation and you had to choose a destination, that's a personal opportunity, but you are able to use the process. We just want to make sure you understand the process and can use it. However, it would be great if you could use the problem analysis and solve a problem in Yangfeng, in our company. And what we found is that people generally this year have been turning in projects that have averaged about $10,000. And for most of you, there is a cost to training, and our training cost is around $300. We buy in bulk, and we supply the trainer, the teacher, and so we spend $300, and if we got $300 back, we would have 100% return. But we spend $300, and we require our people to turn in projects. They average $10,000 this year, and that turns out to be a $3,000 return on investment. And we've had years that they even turn higher projects in, and ultimately the needles move. And so for us, that's very important. Yes, we give them a certificate because we're very proud of them. It's signed. It's not, just printed out and fake signed. It's signed. It's presented. It's framed. We're very proud. We even put together a little bit of an A3 that describes our process, what we expect, who can get trained, what do you do before the training. You come with a problem, and you work right on through it. So with that, we'll take just our last poll here. I am interested in how you take your training and how you measure your training. How do you measure business success around training and application of training? And you would answer, well, we measure by the number of people taking training, we measure by the number of people taking training and the number of projects, or we measure the number of people that take it, the number of projects, and the quantifiable improvement, or all of the above or none of the above. Click on one of those and select, and in a second, we'll open that up. All right. And it looks like most of you are trying to do the same thing, track the training, track the projects, and track the improvements coming from those projects. And that's exactly what we do. We don't really give out certificates for just attending training. People go away from our training, they turn in their projects, and we talk about the certification. And with that, I have a slide that does talk about some of our examples, and I do want to take a little time to go through some of these examples and questions. So in one of our plants, Melissa was working in a launch. They had an issue of a retention, and the engineer couldn't actually root cause it and fix it. And so they were adding more labor. They were adding a different retention method. And Melissa said, hey, can I use that for my KT class? And the engineer said, yep, why don't you use that and see if you can solve it. And as it turned out, she did solve it. It was a $24,000 project annually, and we booked that. And all our projects are booked in what we call CI track. And so people put the number in of what they did and the value of it, but in CI track, it is validated by the controller. So if I said it's $1 million, it's not $1 million until the controller says it's $1 million. He has to verify it, or she has to verify it. And so we have a controller verify every project that is in CI track, and we only count the projects that are completed in CI track. And that's that other picture you see there. In even choosing what IT company was going to develop the CI track for us, we went through a decision analysis and looked at different IT suppliers, different integrators that would develop this for us. And out of this decision analysis, we chose the integrator, and we are extremely pleased with them, not only in cost and function and support, but we have been using them, over 10 years, and really couldn't be happier. So another example that the decision analysis works very well for us. The next one, I did want to talk about how we use KT and Six Sigma. This is an example. We have a recliner. Ultimately, we're getting some cracking. So I have another picture here. It's 3 pieces. These are all steel pieces. The rivet goes in. I think people understand that, okay, some type of force has to come down and smash the rivet, right? It mushrooms it over, and we want to connect those pieces together. Unfortunately, sometimes they cracked, and so our problem was we have, our recliners are cracking. We did a Six Sigma project, and we looked at the data. And sure enough, we had some variation. We looked at our machine, and the Six Sigma level before was around 1.64. We had 50,000 rejects per million. And the Six Sigma team actually controlled the process, and they controlled the diameter of the head, and they improved the process to 3,500. Everyone was happy. We celebrated, had a Six Sigma level of 2.7, and you can see we cut down the number of defects, etc. However, a lot of times I ask, well, if you know the true cause, then what is preventing you from eliminating the problem altogether? The real question is, why aren't we at 0? 3,500 defects is still a far cry from 0. And that's why we teach KT and we ask these critical questions. I did review with the Master Black Belt, and in the end, we concluded that, the head diameter is probably not the cause of why it's cracking. And so we asked some critical questions, some KT questions, and if you think of that picture, it's like, why was the crack in the middle piece and not in the outer pieces? That's a critical question. Why was the crack always in the same place in the middle piece? And why do other recliners that we make not crack? And so we ask questions, what is odd, special, unique, different about that middle piece? And so these questions really go to the heart of the problem. And we, just going through the problem analysis of KT, we realized that the real root cause was the force. Of course, the force caused it to crack. And, why does the force cause it to crack? Well, as you smash the rivet, right, as you form the rivet, that rivet swells in the holes and mushrooms over. And then why did it break the middle one and not the outer one? And then you get into the science of it and you find out that, in the physics, well, the middle one has actually turned out to be more brittle and the outer parts are more ductile. And brittle parts break quicker than ductile parts. And then you start to measure the diameters. You find out that the middle diameter is a less diameter in the middle part and larger in the outer parts. And so it mushrooms quicker in the middle, and that force caused it to break. And then when you ask further questions, why did it break there all the time? And you find out that, well, there's a stress riser in the area, there's less material there. And once we understood the dimensions of the centerpiece, we understood the ductile material versus the brittle material, we understood what, from a Six Sigma standpoint, what is the intended function of that rivet and what does it do, we eliminated it to zero. And that's why we teach KT, and that's why we ask these critical questions. And I have more examples to share. And so for us, KT is understanding that those critical questions even make a project more successful, and that Six Sigma project was good, but we ended up making it better. Ultimately, I think it comes down to the rational processes that some people followed rather than the irrational processes. I have other examples I'm just going to run through quickly. So, as you look at the critical thinking processes, how you can clarify the goals, how you can examine the assumptions, how can you evaluate the evidence, and in the end, come up with a very good set of questions to either make a better decision, prevent a future problem, take advantage of a future opportunity, solve an issue quickly. I think for us, these critical thinking skills have been paramount to not only in our lean, not only in our Six Sigma, but just helping make better professional problem solvers, decision makers in Yangfeng. And we really wanted to search for the truth for every situation. And just like a lawyer asks very good questions, these rational processes ask very good questions. Let me go to a couple that I've actually had in real life. And so I'm going to read these, and I'll try to add a little bit of emotion to them. But we had an overhead console. It was plastic overhead console. It was formed, injection molded in a tan material, and it had black specks in the plastic. And so, the overhead console has black specks. And my question to the team, because they couldn't solve the problem, they did want to do a KT on it, I said, well, what evidence do you have that it's black? And they said, well, I can see it. It looks black. And I asked the question again. I said, yeah, but what evidence do you have black? And they said, well, here, you look at it. What color do you think it is? And I said, that's it? You're black? I mean, what if it's dark blue, or what if it's, a dark red, or, and what they had done is they started to address the plastic that in an injection molding machine heats up, and if it heats up, and if it gets stuck in there and heats up too much, it burns and turns black, and they have black specks. In the end, once we quantified the problem statement, the specks were actually not black. They were actually clear, but they looked black because there was no light behind them. And we looked in the plastic, and the plastic pellets that we mold out, the parts out of, had many contaminants of plastic clear specks in the plastic itself, and those clear specks were making its way into the molded part. And unfortunately, we had taken apart the molding machine, trying to clean all the carbon out of the machine, and in reality, it was a supplier issue with with clear specks material in the virgin material. Another one I put out here is, the bracket is bent. Okay, that's a problem statement. What do you mean when you say it's bent? Is it bent up or is it bent down? And the response is, well, is the whole bracket bent? As it turns out, just the end was bent, and it was even rotated slightly, like twisted. And so the question was, if you drop that, because they thought people were dropping it, mishandling, could you even drop it and get the bracket to bend up and twist? And they dropped it. It didn't even bend that much, and it didn't bend up. It actually bent down, and it did not twist. And so this one we solved very quickly. We looked around our equipment and said, how many locations in our building can actually bend steel, bend it up, and twist it? And as it turned out, we did have one machine, a rivet machine, and it was pushing on that bracket, and the force of the rivet machine was bending it up and twisting it because it was slightly off center, so it put a torque on it. Another question is, we had a bracket that was missing a washer. We weld washers on brackets. Well, what do you mean it's missing? Well, it's not welded on. Okay, so it's not welded on. The washer's miswelded. It's not welded on at all. There's no weld. And as it turns out, it's like, whoa, there's weld there, but the washer's not there. Matter of fact, the weld was in the right place, but the washer wasn't there. And so it's very important to have the right question to get you to the right problem statement so you can attack the problem with the rational process and the critical thinking questions. You can use that same thing on buying things like a car. What do you want in a new car? Do you want good gas mileage? Do you want low maintenance costs? Do you want a certain color? Do you want a certain number of doors on it? What questions would you ask to ensure that you chose the right car to buy? Matter of fact, if you're buying a car, you already made a choice because you decided not to lease it or borrow it or rent it or whatever. And so critical thinking is the ability to exhibit that keen insight and make accurate judgments. And then finally, for me, the best question I like to ask, and I like to insert this in many areas, if something is the true cause of, let's say, the rivet head is bending, how does it explain that it is the inboard and not the outboard? Or, if the rivet diameter is the cause of the bracket breaking, how does it explain that it's only breaking the inside portion of it and not the outside portion of it? And when you start to ask those questions, you really get to, you either validate the root cause or you start to realize, hey, that may not be the exact root cause that I'm looking for. And if you're using a decision analysis, a DA, there's critical questions there. What are the implications, short and long term, if I bought this car or if I chose this college? And so these questions are in this template. They're in this framework. I like to golf. I put a picture of golf in here because, I practice golf. I want to be very consistent with my grip and arm position, ball position, etc. How do I become a better golfer? I practice. How do I become a better thinker? I practice. And we want our people here at Yangfeng to practice and become better. We even use KT during a lean event. As an example, here's Paul. He did a Kaizen event. He had to change the layout. The layout was important to the people because everyone had an opinion on which way we should make the layout. It wasn't just to move and then see what happens. We actually did a decision analysis. The team looked at the objectives. They weighted them. They ranked them. We did the multiplication. We asked the question. And in the end, we came up with a much better move for that line. One last case study here is around just a seat. We used to, at our company, make seat tracks that move the seat. So if you have a power seat in your car, it moves forward and back or moves up and down. It tilts. And we had a problem where one of the motors was stalling, was drawing a lot of amps, and we looked at the is not. It happened to be the vertical motor. It wasn't the other horizontal motor or the tilt motor, but one distinction popped out, that it was not customer 2, it was customer 1. And we asked the question, what is odd, special, unique about customer 1? And it turned out that customer 2 had a bearing, customer 1 did not. We looked right at that bearing area, and we found out that the shaft was actually being installed improperly. It wasn't making it through the hole. And if you look at the diagram here, the picture, we could actually tighten down the bracket over the shaft or not over the shaft. And if we torqued it down not over the shaft, it would not make it through the hole, whereas the bearing made it through the hole, and it really helped us. So for us, KT's core focus does help us. It helps us to do things faster, more efficiently, do it cheaper. We're very happy with the training that Kepner-Tregoe has provided. We're very happy with how many projects we have done. We're very happy how we integrated into our organization. And of course, I'm very happy about the return on investment that we've made. And you can see our projects continue to go up and up. And with that, I think, Sam, we're going to open it up for some questions. I think we still have a little time. And so, should we go to questions here?
Sure. Steve.
Yeah, Joe, we'll do that.
The questions, please.
Yeah, so a few of you have submitted questions. We're going to jump right in. While our presenters are answering your questions, please take a moment to complete the feedback form that appears on the left-hand side of your screen. And our first question is, how do you set goals annually for your continuous improvement efforts and projects? Is it based on dollars, quantity? What are the criteria?
Yeah, very good question. For us, it is dollars. We have a very unique process, I feel, in our company. We do it by GAAP. And by GAAP, what I mean is we look at processes within our company. We look at, so for example, a lot of our plants do injection molding. We have ways to look at our injection molding across our plants, and the plants that have injection molding, we find the ones that are doing it the best business practice. And we are able to quantify what best means, and everyone else then is ranked according to that best. And that difference, that gap between where you are and first place is a gap. And we want you to close that gap over the year, and that gap represents a certain number of dollars. And in molding, you'd be surprised. Sometimes it is lean projects, sometimes it is KT projects, sometimes it is Six Sigma projects around scrap, etc. And so we use a gap, and we do set out goals that way. Because you don't just want to pick a number. We do it, we think, fairly. We look at the best in class in different number of our plants, and we compare you to the best in class, and we can quantify that. And the difference from you being first place is, in a sense, what you owe the organization. So we try to do an apples-to-apples comparison. And in a sense, to summarize, we want everyone to be in first place, and we have a way to quantify you that you're not in first place.
Okay. Our next question is, how many KT projects are done as an individual or as a group?
Every individual that takes the training is required to do 2 to become certified. We have many problems in a plant where the people that have done KT in the past and they are facilitators, so for example, a team leader, as a KT practitioner, he'll facilitate with his team, 1 a month, sometimes, 1 a year, sometimes 5 a year, depending on the problems that team leader has. We keep track from a CI professional standpoint. We keep track of all the projects. From a certification standpoint, we keep track of all the projects. But from a team leader doing KT projects, we do not keep track of those. But generally, every CI professional will do roughly 12 a year, and every person that takes training, gets certified, is required to do 2 to become certified. And so we had 130 people this year become certified, and so I know that there's at least 260 projects out there associated with the certification, the practitioner level.
Okay. Another listener wants to know, does giving the certification, applying training into practical situation, and metrics around awarding it vary from company to company?
Yeah, this is Sam Bernstine. The clients that we work with have different metrics that they use on projects and with the KT training. One of the keys that I would emphasize, though, is when we work with clients, just like Yangfeng or other clients, we always encourage them and we work with them to establish some key metrics up front. And what might be an important metric at one company with increased throughput or recalls or productivity efficiencies might be a different set of metrics with a different client in a different company. Yangfeng has their particular metrics that they use, but we have other clients who use other different metrics. The key message here, though, is anybody we work with, we really work hard up front to require them to establish some clear expectations with metrics so they can, in fact, measure return on investment and value-added success with the use of the KT tools. Joel, I don't know if you wanted to add anything specific to that.
Yeah, the thing, and I am familiar with some other companies, of course, and how they use it, but I want to be very clear that we do require people to do 2 projects to get certified, and we want them to follow the process. During that process of doing those projects, they're coached, the templates are reviewed, corrections are made, etc. Ultimately, they solve the problem if it's a PA. Ultimately, they make a decision or so if it's a DA. But those 2 projects do not have to come from our company. They do not have to be real. It could be, my problem is my microwave doesn't work. It could be a personal issue or my car runs rough. However, what we do tell people, though, is, at the end of the year when you're evaluated, how well you did in our company, we think that your boss, it may be more beneficial to you if you said, hey, I solved a problem on the line that we've been plagued with for 3 years, rather than, hey, my car runs great. It's things like that. So we're actually, when we certify people, we want to make sure they follow the process. And but our CI professionals doing the Lean and Six Sigma, of course, all those projects are tied to the productivity improvements in the plant and ultimately turn into dollars or quality.
All right. Our next question is continuous improvement, Lean Six Sigma, something you have implemented at your plant in Fountain Inn, South Carolina?
Fountain Inn is a purchased plant. We purchased part of that plant and we added an expansion on it. And so right now the answer is no. If they had a CI program ahead of time, that probably remains. What we are doing, and I showed it on one of the earlier slides, our YFIMS is what we are implementing right now, our interiors manufacturing system. And so we are concentrating more on the world-class manufacturing, the capability of the plant. And yes, we do have obviously MEs and PEs that we're training in Lean. I don't think anyone there, unless they've been trained in the past, we haven't trained in KT or in Six Sigma. And so it's a new plant for us, and we are right now installing our YFIMS system first. That's foundational to us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and we have
course,
time for...
yeah, but of course, that will follow.
Right. Okay, and we have time now for one last question. Why do you find it's a best practice to have a few experts but many practitioners?
A few experts or many practitioners?
Yeah.
Both. Yeah. What we're really trying to do is we have the program leaders, which in a sense are our experts. They're at the top of the pyramid. They are the ones that train. They are the ones that coach. But if you went back to that pyramid slide, we want people to be practitioners, and those practitioners now are able and can lead projects. And so they're not teaching KT. However, they are leading projects. They are solving problems. They are making decisions as facilitators in their plant, in their location. And really, that's what we want is a culture of everyone at a practitioner level. And if they need help, they can reach out to a program leader if there's a difficult situation, and our program leaders do get called in difficult situations. But we want to take our people, get them into not only the training, get them to the practitioner level where they prove they can do it, and then we want them to be out there doing it. So for us, the program leaders really facilitate, coach, train. We want a whole host of practitioners, and this year we have 130 people that are now solving problems more than we had, in let's say a better way, a more rational way than we did last year because we trained that many.
And KT's philosophy is to spread the wealth and spread the value. So the more practitioners you can develop in an organization, the greater opportunity you have to impact more people at all levels of the organization, and thus create a common language throughout the organization and enhance the return on investment.
Okay. Well, I'm afraid that we've run out of time. I'd like to thank our speakers, Joel Beezhold and Sam Bernstine, and our sponsor, Kepner-Tregoe. As a reminder, if you are registered as a group, please add the names and emails of everyone in attendance on the exit survey. On behalf of Industry Week, have a productive remainder of the day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.